Hello, everyone. Doing a mic check. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, we'll get started here momentarily. How's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Which screen are you seeing, by the way? Are you seeing the USA Jobs one?
USAJOBS.
Okay, good. All right, excellent. I've got like 4 monitors here, and for GoToWebinar, it's not. Normally you get a little sub view in Zoom. They do that for you here. I don't see that, so I just want to make sure. All right, excellent. All right, we'll get started here in a second. I'm just trying to iron out any wrinkles before we go live, all right? Appreciate you all that are here already. Go ahead and start asking any questions in the questions box. And so as I come to that, I'll make sure and cover those, okay, if you can think of any. All right, everyone, we're about 2 minutes to and then go live. I have about 32 people here so far. Let's give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Again, this will be recorded. All right, so no worries. No worries at all for those of you that cannot attend, couldn't attend. It's rather windy outside, so I hope it doesn't knock anything out. But we shall see. I mean, it's very windy outside. We shall see. Hopefully it plays nice and we don't have any downtime. Just put it that way.
Someone's talking, but it's not coming through clear at all.
It's not coming through. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
I can hear you just fine, Anna.
Okay.
Yeah, me too. I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Same here.
Same here.
And if that's you talking, basically your microphone is just it sounds like it's coming through a modulator or something. There's no clear audio coming through at all.
I'm not talking right now anyways. Can you hear me now?
I mean, I could hear you fine.
Okay, so then you might want to check your side then. Because if everybody else, right, troubleshooting 101, if everybody else can hear, then might be on your side. Just might want to check, you know.
Hey,
right.
folks, how we doing?
Say again.
Hey, it's Marvin. How's everyone doing?
Hey Marvin, how are you doing? How are you doing?
Great. Great.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, excellent, excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, right? And for those that are kind of trailing in, it's all right, we'll get them caught up. What I do have on my screen here is the replacement to the DoD 8570 mandate. Why am I even bringing that up? Well, tonight we're focusing on federal resumes, and of course, that's got to be in line with, of course, meeting the requirements indicative of course, industry certifications and a variety of things, okay? The DoD 8570 mandate is down. It's no longer available because it was replaced by the 8140.03 that I have up here. You will all get a copy of this at the conclusion of this webinar, okay? I'm bringing this up because it actually puts it in like IAT level 1, IAT level 2, IAT level 3, right? And of course, many of the job descriptions in USAJOBS and others will say, and even commercial industry will say must meet a minimum requirement of IAT level 2. Okay, so what does that mean, right? It's like security plus, those types of things. The A plus and network plus are in the IAT level 1 bucket, not the IAT level 2 bucket, right? And then of course, GAC certification, those are SAN certifications and a variety of other things. So I'm not going to cover this entire document today. I just wanted to bring to your attention that it replaced the 8570. And you're going to need to know this when you start pursuing opportunities and government opportunities, and you're aligning your industry certifications, right, with meeting those job roles, the requirements, the knowledge, skills, and abilities in the job roles. Because if you do not marry it up, then you won't get the job. You won't even get referred to the selection, you know, the hiring manager at all in the system, okay? So I'll provide this to you. It's a lengthy doc, it's about 32 pages. Here's, of course, on this side, you know, a nice little cyber workforce strategy, right? They do use the NICE framework. For those of you not familiar with the NICE framework, they did a full-on review of different jobs and crosswalk them, of course, with defense and offense and, you know, computer network defense, a variety of things, into all the different types of skills, you know, jobs that we need to fill, right? So when you guys are looking for specific titles, don't get caught up so much of the job title as what you're going to be doing for that job, right? With that job, because there's a lot of overlap. A lot of folks say, I don't want to do SOC analyst. Okay, but do you realize that part of being a SOC analyst is understanding SIM, right? Logging analyses, right? So we can do proper incident response and the hunt and a variety of other things. So every single one of you will need to know logs, right? How to interpret logs and those network traffic, like all these things, right? So, so there's a lot of overlap. So, I am very cautious when, I try to tell you guys, just being transparent and honest, but what I see in contracts, what I see in jobs, right? What we're actually looking for. And then how do you stage your resume? Being transparent and honest, of course, but gaining those critical skills, and certifications needed to get these jobs, right? Whether or not you're looking for CIA, FBI, NSA, Department of State, right? A variety of things, right? So, if we look at here, we've got, alignment to elements, right? So we got cyber IT, technical support specialist. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger here. Make it bigger. There we go. Okay. So, database support specialist, for instance, database admin, knowledge manager, right? All these things, right? System testing and evaluation, ComSec, vulnerability assessment analyst, right? There's a lot, folks. I mean, there's the umbrella for cybersecurity is huge. It's immense, right? So let me expand this a little bit here, make it even bigger. Okay. So they've done a nice crosswalk working with NICE and some others, right? These, again, you have to get an understanding of what the government's looking at, right? Because this all comes up in a table, and I'm going to show you how to pull, right? There's Intel, cyber effects, right? They put this here. Cyber ops is here. Data and AI, they've even put that here. AI and ML specialist, right? Data scientist, data analyst, software engineering roles, those types of things. Different enablers, right? So leadership, right? Privacy compliance manager, right? Training and education, for instance, right? Legal law enforcement, falls under the forensics analyst, cybercrime investigator, cyber legal advisor, right? Those types of things. Acquisition, right? So again, I'm going to provide this to you as well. I'm not going through this whole thing tonight. My thing was, I just want to share with you the new guidance first, okay? Don't look at the legacy stuff anymore. You need to look at what's new, because these are the requirements then when HR is writing job descriptions to meet these requirements, right? It's going to fall in line with this, right? So many of you, if you're here tonight, some of you have gone to USAJOBS, some of you haven't. I do recommend you create a profile in USAJOBS, okay? Now, with USAJOBS, there is a preference level identified, right? So if you're a veteran, or there's what they call veterans preference, right? Spouse, like military spouse preference, those types of things. So if you are a disabled vet, for instance, like I'm a disabled vet, so I automatically get a 10-point preference, right? So that's calculated into, and I have to provide, a form for that, that it's validated. Trust me, you just can't say your veteran's preference and then it's validated, okay? So that's a 10-point preference. A veteran, a non-disabled veteran, is a 5-point preference. Then you have the spouse, military spouse, right? They get a preference, right? Those types of things. That's the way it goes. And so if you are submitting your resumes, right, and remember you're up against the disabled vets and the veterans. Many of us already have clearances and a variety of things. So naturally, we're going to be put on the top of the list, right, for these jobs. So I just want to be completely honest with you guys, right? It's not to say you don't put in for them, right? But I'm just saying that note that that is the process. Now, during the transition assistance program, like especially, even when I got out, right, they talk now about that this system is not, it's not Resumix and stuff. I can tell you that's inaccurate. And because I have tried this both ways. I've tried it with a regular commercial resume, and I've tried it with a federal resume that I'm going to share with you, right? A federal template resume, okay? The commercial resume never got through. The federal resume got through every single time, okay? So I've had, NGB, National Guard Bureau Readiness Center, and of course, Department of State that I work for as a government employee, okay? It is hard. The selection process is very difficult. And to navigate through this, right, there's a way that you have to do this, okay? For all IT jobs, all of them, okay, they're under the 2210 identifier. So and you're going to get all these links at the conclusion. So just bear with me, right? So there's a thing called fast class, okay? So I'm sharing with you a lot of hacks, if you will, in order to ensure that you have the language on your resume to even pass through the computer backend, right? Because it looks for, you know, it's basically pattern matching, right? Boolean search matching, almost like an OCR backend, and it looks for, you know, not only do you have it on your resume, but how many times does it come up on your resume? And then number two, many times the paragraphs need to be matched. So what do I mean by that? So let's just say, I'm going to say series, okay? So series is 2210, that's all IT, that's INFOSEC. Look, folks, we don't call it cybersecurity right now. In government takes forever to change. Even that PowerPoint I just shared with you, don't expect the jobs to be listed like that either. So when you're looking for government jobs specifically, all of them that are related to IT and cyber and operations and everything else are 2210. Okay, 2210. There's the grade. The grade is, of course, GS 9 or 12 or 15 or whatever. Okay. So don't worry about the position title. All you're going to do here is type in 2210 in the series. Okay. You're going to click search. You don't need to worry about anything else here. Okay. Because I'm going to share with you something. Okay. So in here, right, if you notice, there's IT, they're all IT specialists, folks, all of them. Okay. No matter if they're cyber or not. Now, we don't have specifically cyber called out, if you notice, but what do you see? INFOSEC. That's information security, because that's what we've been called forever. Okay. So let's just click on this. This is the 2210 series. It's all going to be 2210 that fall under this. All right. And of course, the grade, in this case, it's a GS 11. Okay. Don't worry about the East and West right now. I just want to pull this up. Okay. And what you're going to do, because this has to be on your resume. So if you notice, right, it's got this, you know, position serves as a cybersecurity specialist, will assist in development. But if you notice, that's not on the IT thing, right? That's on the, you know, again, this is in fast class. So you're going to literally want to take and copy and paste. Copy and paste. Yes, I said that. Okay. You're going to modify this, of course, for what you've done, but you need to copy and paste and just tailor it for as long as you've actually done the work, right? Because if you do not, you'll never get to the selection piece of it in the system. Okay, your job is to take that resume, the knowledge, skills, and abilities even. If you put, when you're answering the questions in USAJOBS, and you say, you know, hold on a second. Sorry, my voice. If you say, let's just say, out of 12, right? And you say, okay, I think I have most, like 10 out of 12. If you select that on the knowledge, skills, and abilities assessment, you will not get the job. You will not get the job because you got other people that are saying yes, 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 meeting all the requirements. So again, only go for ones that you know that you meet the requirements. And I'm talking 100% of the requirements. Competition is fierce. There are thousands of resumes that come through the back end, that system in USAJOBS alone. Okay. Many of them too are only open for a specific period of time. If you notice a short window, it's because they're looking to hire from within, and by law they have to post it. Okay. But they're given that within, they already have somebody identified, basically. It's somebody from within. And then they'll tell that person, and that person submits for it, right? You know, what have you. That's the way it goes. I mean, that's honestly, that's the way it goes. So, yeah, this is called fast class. And again, you're going to get all these links. Okay. And yes, this is Army or what have you, but this is the trick to it. I'm not going to lie, it's the trick. So you literally take your copy and paste knowledge of programming techniques, unclassified local area network, right? That's the way we talk, right? So, and again, you have to make sure that the acronyms as well as the spelled out are included in there. So you literally copy and paste this, you know, and just make sure you know, the contingency planning programs, whatever you've done in the past. So obviously you remove this and put whoever you've done it for, right? You know, so those types of things. Okay, that has to be on your resume. All right. And then let's go to the resume, right? So okay, so what does she mean by the resume? Okay, the federal resume is completely night and day different than the commercial resume. Okay. You know, you put your job information, there's personal information on there, you know, which includes, okay, full name, mailing address, zip code, day and evening phone numbers with area code, social security number, country of citizenship, veterans preference, reinstatement eligibility, right? If in fact, you know, you're a GS, like if I were to try to go back in, you know, kind of thing, highest federal civilian grade held, if in fact you've held a GS position, and those of us that have held one, if we go reapply, that's another preference we get in that system. Education, work experience, includes job title, duties, and accomplishments, as well as your employer's name and address, supervisor's name and phone number, starting and end dates, hours per week, salary, and statement of permission to contact your supervisor. All has to be in there. If you fail to provide any of this, you will not, the system will just block it. It won't even get to the next level, right? A lot of people don't realize this. They just take their civilian resume, right, as it is, and then just float it up, and they expect, okay, let me put a cover letter. I think I meet all the requirements. Let me submit it. I'll say yes, yes, yes on the stuff. And no, they never hear back, of course. And there's thousands of others. So if you don't follow the instructions, right, follow the instructions. And that's why I'm telling you guys this, is that there's a lot of PII that's going to be in that system before you even get hired. Okay. So the proper resume format, right? You know, basic information, your objective, experience, education, right? You know, the applicant's name should be, follow these instructions, folks, because government's real big on that. If you can't follow instructions, bye, see ya. There's hundreds of thousands of there that gets submitted for those same jobs, okay? Hundreds of thousands, not just thousands, hundreds of thousands, okay? So if you're not going to even take the time, right, or the wherewithal to follow the instructions, why should they even hire you in the first place, right? It's all about following. It's even cyber. It's all about following instructions, right? So, you know, so it says this section will act as your introduction to the hiring manager. It should stand out while also highlighting key points the manager is looking for. So again, applicant's name should be printed in large at the top, followed by a subheading with their desired or previous job title. Below that, more detailed information can be broken down in columns, right? Column 1 should include address, phone number, and email, right? Column 2 should include citizenship, highest GS grade, veterans preference and availability, disability and security clearance, like all these things, right? And it looks kind of like this. So it's got, you know, name, you know, address, all that kind of stuff, right? As an example, for instance, okay. But your objective, right? Job title, years of experience, areas of expertise, 2 to 3 measurable achievements, right? With, you know, numbers, for instance, if you've managed, let's just say, a $3.2 million program, right, and 50 personnel, then make sure you're specific, not just I manage a team. Those of you that are getting leadership position, leadership experience also in this program, make sure that you're capturing what you're doing, right? There's a method to the madness of everything I've got you doing, and why? Because those things you're going to put on your resume and you'll stand out, okay? So leadership and non-leadership, all right? You know, it's got dependable office manager with 5 years of experience and proven skills in electronic spreadsheets, team management, etc. Look how specific it is. It says, by resolving employee conflict 45% faster than the you know, it's got statistics in here, right? Experience, okay? You know, again, federal resume is not the same as a regular resume. It's not, okay? And then there's different subsections. So, you know, office manager, you know, from and to, you know, where you work, you got to put the salary, the hours per week, and of course, you know, if it was GS position or whatever, you know, supervisor number and all that, may contact. You can't put may not contact either. That will, you'll get omitted from that too. So, you know, education, right? So these are a lot of tips. You know, veterans should take note that military training may count towards qualifications. It does all the time, 100%. So remember to include verification of military experience. So there's extra forms that we have to fill out. Okay, you know, our DD-214s, our VMET documents, our DD form 2586 with our applications, right? And all that can be found on USAJOBS, by the way. You just pull it down. Sometimes it requires a notary. Sometimes also, even right now, we've kind of transitioned into a digital format with digital signatures. Some don't allow it still. Some will specifically say in the instructions, sign it, physically sign it and submit, right? So again, following the instructions are incredibly important, okay? Take the time to study the announcement and work its key points into the work history section. Avoid jargon, right? Veterans should avoid using military job titles or occupational codes, right? Like 25 Bravo, those types of things. All pages of the federal resume must be numbered. and we need to use bullet points within the objectives if necessary, right? So again, I'm gonna provide all this to you so you'll have it, okay? It's incredibly critical to your ability to even get even in the back end, you know, for us to follow this through, right? So let's talk about, there's cybersecurity cover letters, right? And this can be both for federal and non-federal, okay? So, you know, here's some examples, right? Or what have you, okay? And of course, different things and what to include, right? So what a cybersecurity analyst is, right? Include, you know, what to include in the cover letter, you know, review the job description, of course, apply the keywords, you know, and try to mirror that in your cover letter, okay? The tone and the language too, right? Because it's gonna be different. Format the document, right? So again, margin between 3/4 and 1 inch, right? This all matters. And also make sure it's a readable font like Times New Roman. Times New Roman is the go-to font for military and government, straight up. Don't use Arial, don't use Courier, okay? And use 12 font. 12 font. Sometimes they'll accept 10, but just do 12 font. The reason why I say that is because that's our standard format, okay, for even policy procedure documents. It's 12 font, normally it's Times New Roman, okay? Follow through with the margins, the pagination, right, the margins, okay? You know, and then also this is compatible then with OCR machines, right? When you're turning in stuff, don't also give a PDF. I know it's going to be tempting to upload a PDF. Pull down a Word document, okay? Not a pages from you know, not a pages from those of you that have Macs or whatever, but make sure you have a Word document. Why? Because they prefer anymore Word documents because then they can run them through OCR machines. Sometimes PDFs, for whatever reason, don't allow it. I don't know, it's kind of weird the way the PDFs are. You would think they'd be compatible with all that, but it's honestly not. I'm trying to give you tips from being on both sides of the aisle, okay? You want to compose a strong opening paragraph. Of course, describe your experience, you know, be very specific, right? Don't make it like everyone else's, right? And tailor it for that job, right? Explain why you're the right candidate, right? And then of course, finish politely, okay? And of course, proofread. Have other people also proofread your cover letter, okay? Here, you know, lots of different examples or what have you. So again, I'm going to provide this to you as well, okay? So you're going to have this, and this is something again we're going to be working through in this program, okay? Those of you looking for commercial jobs, those of you you know looking for federal jobs, we'll be working. Those are the access to resources that you get here in this program. So I don't want you to be dissuaded from that. Just kind of give a start, give it your good old, you know, try, okay, first try. So at least there's something there, right? And then we'll take and you know, improve upon it, okay? That's all I ask. And again, specific guidance. And here's, you can download the cover letter template, all that kind of stuff. Keep in mind, 12 font, Times New Roman, okay? And then of course, look at this, you know, 3/4 to 1 inch is gonna be the margin, right? So incredibly important, folks. Now let's slide into clearance stuff, okay? So let's talk about eligibility requirements. Let's start with that, okay? So, you know, when they look at us for military, or they look at us up for not just military, but look for us for clearances, okay? In fact, let me start with this one, because I'll start with what is a security clearance first, types and requirements, and then we'll get into the eligibility, which is this one, okay? So security clearance is a requirement for many U.S. federal jobs, especially cyber. Many of them will require a minimum top secret clearance, okay? And they're specific. You can't just arbitrarily on your own go submit for a security clearance. It doesn't work like that. I get asked like that all the time. First of all, you have to be sponsored. There has to be a bona fide need, okay, for security clearance on that contract or the job that you're seeking, okay? Many jobs will say, must have security clearance, right? With that, you must have a current security clearance. You know, the other ones where you don't have a security clearance, you look for words that say must be able to obtain a security clearance. Okay, that's completely different. But for security clearances, you must be a U.S. citizen, straight up. There's no way of getting around that. I wish there was, but there isn't. Okay. I've seen naturalized citizens get like secret clearances and public trust clearances, right, or what have you. So I have seen that. But if you're on any type of visa, whether it be an H-1 visa or a student visa or what have you, I'm sorry, but unless you become a naturalized citizen and, which is U.S. citizen, basically, you don't have to be born here per se. I mean, it just depends. It just depends. It also depends on like if you actually were in a foreign military and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to get into the eligibility requirements in just a minute. That's up there. But let's walk this through. Right, security clearance is like a background check, but it goes beyond the NACI. There's NACI, which is basic background check, which is typically the basic background check for teaching or even for real estate, those types of things, right? Basic background check for, even a warehouse worker or whatever, right? So those are things like that. There's the public trust, okay, which is this SF Sierra Foxtrot 85-P Papa. Right, that's for public trust. That goes though heavily in the finance aspect, right? And then there's the SF86, okay, which is what we use, and of course it'll be online in an equip digital format, okay. And that's why too, if you filled out your resume with all the data, it helps to actually transpose that. You can't have any gaps. So even if you don't remember, there's a thing to say, at least give them an estimated, and then you can say, this is. You don't know, it's not exact, right? You always say it's not exact because, hello, you could make a mistake, you do whatever, and you don't want to, if there is a mistake and you say it's exact, right? I mean, none of us can remember exact, like especially those of us that have moved around a lot or been in other countries too, right? Trying to remember from when to when did you live there? I mean, from when to when specifically, day, month, year that you had the jobs, right, kind of stuff. So if it's an estimated, as long as it's close to the ballpark, you're good to go. And there's always a check mark where you can actually say, close to, but not exact kind of thing, right? Which is what I highly recommend you do. You don't want to box yourself in a corner. I mean, you're not lying, you're just being honest, like you're human, right? You might have actually made a mistake somewhere, right? And that happens. You will have plenty of opportunity to review the application. I mean, it's no joke. A security clearance is a tiered status, okay? It's granted to employees working federal government agency jobs and private contractors who work for the government, okay? A security clearance must be issued before you can begin working. And that's why sometimes it can take 10 months for you to get a TS clearance, okay? So during that time, if somebody hires you and say must be able to obtain, well, that's 10 months. You can't be working in a SCIF during that time, right? That's access to classified information because you're not cleared yet. So they have to pay you overhead during that time. And it's a huge risk because what if you don't get cleared, right? Then this 10 months of what? They paid you with overhead, right? So then they have to let you go if you don't get the clearance, right? So that's why they prefer, right, those of us that already have clearances, okay? So let's kind of look at, here's the brief history here. You can read that on your own. Again, I will be providing all these links to you, okay? There's confidential clearance, which is not, I mean, mostly it's secret and top secret anymore, and of course, public trust, okay? Secret clearance provides access to information that can cause serious damage to national security if disclosed without authorization. Must be investigated for continued eligibility every 10 years. It requires a NACI or a NAC-LC and a credit investigation. A lot of finance stuff, okay? Top secret clearance is the most restrictive, right? And there's SCI, which is secret compartmental information. There's full scope poly, all that kind of stuff. This is access to information that can cause grave damage to national security if disclosed without authorization. Must be reinvestigated for continued eligibility every 5 to 6 years. Now they have the continuous thing too now, which is awesome. But it's typically granted after a single scope background investigation for data related to counterterrorism, counterintelligence, and other extreme sensitive information. Okay, so even when we gain a security clearance, there's what we call sensitive compartmental information, otherwise known as SCI, and that involves intelligence related methods and sources. It's typically granted only after rigorous SSBI and adjudication processes are met, and only in the compartments within their own specific requirements and clearances. Like for instance, when I worked for the FBI, there's a ton of SCIFs in that entire building. I only had access to, I think, about 3 of them based upon my access. I was a contractor at that time, and the role that I had, the need to know that I had access to 3 of those SCIFs. That was it, just enough to do my job, no more, no less. So everybody thinks, oh, you have top secret information, you must know everything. No, we don't. We're only given, we're put in different groups, if you will, and given access to the secret compartmental information in the compartments in which to do our jobs. That's it, right? So, and then there's special access programs. Those involve highly sensitive projects, usually established by DoD, like military technology, It's granted to very few individuals, right? There's tons of jobs that require a security clearance, and I'm going to tell you, IT operations, cybersecurity, all of you will require a TS more oftentimes than not. You know, and then of course, even to get admin rights, for instance, even with the TS, you still have to get a Security Plus, for instance, which is a, you know, a certification, right, for DoD, for instance. So how do we obtain a security clearance, right? So now OPM, now DoD sponsored ours, those of us that were in the military. Yours will then be transitioned over to OPM, and there's normally a visitor access request that's conducted, right? It takes 2 to 4 weeks to get it transferred over, right? They'll validate, you know, when your last investigation was and all that other stuff in JPass. Now it's another system. And there's an FSO, a facility security officer, that will be maintaining, and then that organization will take over your clearance. When I transitioned from DoD, for instance, military, to then government, right, GS, my clearance then was transitioned over to the offices of personnel management. Okay, and you fill out an EQIP, which is the SF-86, the online form, very similar to what we did in DoD. Okay, we undergo a comprehensive background investigation to determine eligibility, right? It revolves in financial, criminal, medical, right? They contact your family and friends and friends of friends and friends of friends of friends and neighbors and other neighbors and past employers. Okay, the depth of the investigation will depend on the level of clearance needed. Okay, may extend over a long period of time. Okay, if the DSS is backlog or need more information, it could take anywhere from a couple months to a year, right? And then there's what we call adjudication, right? So the investigative results will be reviewed and evaluated according to the 13 adjudicative guidelines, okay? And they deal with drug and alcohol misuse, criminal conduct, mental health, sexual behavior, financial considerations, and a variety of things, okay? At the end of the adjudication process, you'll be either granted or denied security clearance. Now, do you need to be perfect? Absolutely not. Do you need to be honest? Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. Because I've seen people get granted security clearances that I was kind of shocked that they did, but they were honest. Okay, they look for patterns of behavior, right? So that could be potentially exploited, right? Or mishandling of data or mishandling of finances. Look, there's no perfect person, especially when it comes to finances. Look what happened with COVID. I mean, people lost their jobs, people lost their businesses, those types of things. And of course, their credit score is going to take a major hit, right? People go into massive debt, right, because of certain things that have happened, especially during the pandemic. So again, there's a specific instant, a causation, if you will, a cause and effect, right? Now, how you handle that is different, right? So, so they'll look at that. They'll look and see if you legitimately maybe had your privacy data stolen, right? And there's certain things on there with your clearance and things, but you have to show, I mean, you have to show evidence. You just can't, they're not going to take your word for it, right? Those types of things. Even drug abuses, you know, it just depends, right? Because again, if you smoked a joint, let's just say at a school 20 years ago, even though marijuana maybe is legal, right, for commercial, if you will, you cannot, it's not for military, it's not for jobs, you know, it's not for government jobs. So again, be very careful with that. So, you know, whatever friends of friends of friends are doing, you know, you need to stay away from that, honestly, because again, that could render you, you know, the government is very, I would say, conservative when it comes to values, right? When they do the hiring criteria for clearances, right? It goes without saying. I mean, you can have a sex life, you can have this, you can have that, but what are you doing, right? Are you doing porn? Are you whatever, you know, that kind of stuff, right? Do you have a webcam or whatever, and you're doing whatever? I mean, those types of things, right? Look, make sure you clean up your dating sites or whatever you're doing, you know, all kinds of things, because anything can and will be used against you, because what they're looking at is ways in which the people can exploit you, right? If you look at the OSINT framework, for instance, right, even, right? The OSINT framework, right? So, I mean, trust me, all this stuff is there out in the open. So, and anybody can get access to it, those cyber people and those non-cyber people, and they'll look at this. You know, they look at your, you know, social networks, you know, dating sites, you know, public records, which includes court records, you know, even if it's expunged, they'll go and they'll get access because they're federal litigators, right? With badges, if you will, they can go and get the information. So, you know, if it happened, just be honest, right? Just be honest, even mental health. So look, be honest, just say, yes, I went through a period of depression, okay? Or I went through a period of divorce or loss, bereavement, right, of a child or, a family member or whatever, and it required counseling. You need to reveal that, okay? You need to reveal that because they look at, all that kind of stuff does factor in. Are you going to be told no because you went to a mental health provider? Absolutely not. But if you're taking, like, I'm talking severe stuff and you're seen as a high risk, then obviously it's probably going to be a no. But you should still be honest anyways, because what you don't want is that, because they'll look and they'll do like a readiness form, right, before they even spend money on doing an investigation. You go through this kind of pre-readiness checklist, if you will, to even see if you'd even meet some of the criteria. Okay. And if there's anything that pops up, your FSO, the facility security officer, will say, yeah, no, I don't think that's going to work, right? So maybe we shouldn't do that, or kind of thing, right? Because if you take the risk and you get denied, then you have to put that on every application, right? So just be honest, though. I mean, there was a lieutenant colonel I knew, a retired lieutenant colonel, and over at DHA. Okay, so he had gotten into a thing with his ex-wife or whatever. I don't know what it was. Something dealing with some domestic dispute. Okay, I'll just put it that way. And, but he didn't reveal that. He did not put that on there. I mean, he ended up not getting in trouble, right? But she had put a restraining order on him. You know how divorces can be very contentious many times, put a restraining order on him. It was later found he was okay. But the problem, though, that he got into is he didn't reveal that. He just wasn't honest with the adjudicators during his renewal of his investigation, right? Which is every 6 years, if you will. They do it now every 6 years for TS because, and then they do that rapid renewal thing, but for readiness, but because they had a backlog. But he lied. He just didn't. He omitted it. Okay, he decided, okay, maybe they won't find it. Well, they found it because they can find everything. Do you know that after years, he was retired lieutenant colonel that had TS for like 20 years, and because he omitted that information, he was denied a security clearance. And he pulled me aside. He was really upset, and he was like, "I said, yeah, well, you should have been. You should just been honest with them. So no matter what, just be honest, and you'll be fine. Even when you go through a full scope polygraph, right? You're very nervous. They know that too, right? But they know, of course, patterns of behavior too, and they know how to read body language and a variety of other things. Just be honest. Nobody's perfect. They're not looking for perfection, looking for honesty, and looking for ways in which that people can potentially exploit, right? So again, there's a lot of stuff, okay, that they're going to pull on you, right? Not just this stuff, but everything, okay, and look to see if you can maintain the, right? And it's one thing when you get the clearance, you have to maintain the eligibility. So let's go there, right? So eligibility guidelines, right? And again, you'll get all these links, so no worries, okay? They're gonna, an individual must be of unquestioned allegiance to the United States, right? So there's been a lot of anti-American rhetoric. A lot of anti-American rhetoric. What are you posting on your social media? I mean, all that kind of stuff does matter, folks. You can have an opinion, that's one thing, but you have to be very, very careful, okay? Because it's a conditions that could raise a security concern and maybe disqualifying include, right? Involvement in any act whose aim is to overthrow the government of the United States or alter the form of government by unconstitutional means, right? I mean, all these things, right? Conditions that could mitigate security, individuals unaware of the unlawful aims of the individual or organization and several ties upon learning of these or whatever, right? There's a lot. So we need to read through this. Foreign influence, right? Having close ties with individuals who are not citizens of the United States. Now, I have a business. I deal with stuff overseas. I deal with also students overseas. I'm just very honest. Okay, I'm very honest with who I'm dealing with and things like that, right? So you just, as long as you're honest, it's okay. And then if you don't know, get a ask your FSO. Is this going to cause me, even getting married? Like you'd see a lot of soldiers overseas and they, male or female, would get married. It could be in South Korea, it could be in Germany, it doesn't matter. But the thing is that, if you get married to someone that is on the state.gov list, right? The travel.state.gov list, and I'll pull that up in a minute. If you will, if you actually look at that, it's really kind of got the list of where not to go for obvious reasons, because it provides a huge risk of not only just Americans, but Americans with clearances. Okay, that's why we just don't go there, even for pleasure, because you run the risk of somebody tapping you, if you will, for information or whatever, kind of stuff. So to be very careful. And also, citizens of countries or financial interests, right? That's why I'm surprised all the stuff going on in the news right now with, investments and things. I mean, you can have business overseas, but who's in your back pocket? Okay, that's the thing, because who's in your back pocket and on your cap table says everything about, because they have a stake in and decision-making authority over how you run your business, right? So there's lots of different conditions that could raise a security concern and maybe disqualifying, right? An immediate family member, a person, like I had my ex-husband, was from Guam, right? His dad was, a Filipino gentleman. Now he worked for the U.S. Navy and a government job, so he was a naturalized citizen, but he was originally born in the Philippines. Do you know that I had to get his naturalization number to show that? So even marrying my husband, the ex-husband at the time, who he was a U.S. citizen. He was born in Guam, right? U.S. citizen. Guam's a U.S. territory, and yes, they're U.S. citizens. But he was in the service too. That's how we met. But my father-in-law, I even had to put that on my security clearance re-investigation, right? And it's kind of embarrassing because you're going to have to ask. Now, for those like he was, because he had already gone through security clearance stuff anyways, so he kind of knew and he was okay with that. But you have to take that in consideration, because even the lack of being able to get the information for folks, right? They may not want to reveal that. It's like, no, that's none of your business. Well, then if you can't get that information, you don't get the clearance, straight up. So be very careful on who's in your circle, even family circle, right? He was cool with it, luckily, and all that. But, it's just kind of embarrassed to have to ask, kind of thing, right? Relatives, cohabitants, associates, or connected with any foreign government. Failing to report where required association, because one thing to get a clearance, but then you also have to maintain your ability to maintain that clearance. So again, all this stuff has to be, and not after the fact. You need to get prior authorization, right, to make sure, because the unfortunate part is if you say, well, I kind of did this as after the fact, then you could lose your clearance, right? You need to ask permission first. So, because the I don't know thing isn't going to cut it. Conditions that can mitigate, of course, determination that the immediate family members, cohabitant, or associated in question are not agents of a foreign power or in a position to be exploited by a foreign power, all that kind of stuff, right? And then, of course, the military thing, where is it at? So, it's also about having been in a foreign military also, because if they served in a foreign military, there's also something to that regard too, and I don't remember where that's at, but it's in here somewhere. So, and again, just look at that and just remember all your circle of influence, your friends, your family, all that kind of stuff, everything matters, because you have to then, it's not just your information going on the SF-86, right? It's also those close friends and family. Okay, and their PII, and they may not be comfortable with this. You need to keep them informed. It's like, hey, by the way, somebody's gonna be knocking on your door, right? Kind of thing, what have you. So, yeah, there's a lot involved in this. Honestly, there's a lot involved in this. I'm not gonna lie. So, I'm gonna, again, we're gonna have a smaller subsection, if you will, where I'm gonna provide all this with you. The next step, of course, that we would do then is you're going to take a stab at a federal resume. You're going to take a stab at, the cover letter, right? You're going to read this stuff, right? Those types of things. And for those of you that are U.S. citizens, of course, that meet the requirements, right? Then, of course, we can have a secondary meeting, right, in which, wouldn't be recorded, because I'm not going to record that, because, of course, you'll be sharing your resume, which at that point is going to have PII. So I can either do one-on-one if you feel more comfortable with that, or in a smaller setting, where it won't be recorded, right? And all that kind of help you get through that. And then therefore, you'll be able to have all the requirements needed, right, to submit to these various jobs, right? So like if I were to do, there's open to the public, but again, you still have to, it says U.S. citizens, nationals, right? U.S. nationals are those who owe allegiance to the United States. Right? So you still have to be a U.S. citizen regardless, even though it says open to the public, right? Federal employees, all this stuff, but still, it's the same thing that's going to be asked. It's okay, veterans preference, and again, it's 10-point preference if you're a disabled vet, 5-point preference for veteran, right? There's spousal preference, right? Those types of things are on there too. Prior government preference, that kind of stuff, right? And all that, the demographics and everything also matter, absolutely. So make sure that you're being as honest as possible. you know, what have you. But yeah, I mean, and then of course, when you search for the jobs, again, you're going to search for, let's just say, most of them aren't going to come up as cyber. So let's just say INFOSEC, right? Here, information system security officer, right? Okay, there's gonna be a ton of them that come up. I mean, obviously I can put, you know, whatever, where it's at. But my point to this is that, let's just see, this is the Health Resources and Service Administration, right? And of course there is a GS schedule, okay? So the GS schedule. So the pay, the salary, okay, is based upon, it's public, okay? So it's, you know, the GS schedule. So let's just pull this up real quick. So let's just go like GS schedule 2023, right? Okay, so general schedule, you know, and you want to base scale. Let's just go here. Okay, and of course, you know, it's going to be based upon location, right? It comes into play. Surprisingly, Colorado's higher, even higher than DC. DC's high. There's a few that are high, so you're going to see a different variation. I'm surprised, you know, Colorado is actually in a high, right? You wouldn't think that, but it is actually. So again, you can see here, you know, GS1, and then of course there's different steps, right? You know, through GS15, and then the SCS is different. That's a completely different hiring mechanism there. I was a GS15, so when I was a step 10, so that's what I ended up, step 10. So that's how much I was well, I was getting less than that because that was a few years ago, but still it's in the 6-figure bracket, right? But if you notice, right now all of them are like that. So, but again, sometimes it's getting your foot in the door. Some also jobs require you, let's just say a GS12, for instance, is going to want you to have prior experience as a GS, because sometimes, you know, you're in leadership roles, sometimes you're not, right? Those types of things. So again, the pay scale is here, okay? So it's not like, you know, there are internships too. Many of them, though, have you coming as a GS4. But they had, I was mentoring a gentleman that he was a GS4, and I'm like, they're not maximizing his, he was hungry. He was like you guys, right? Very hungry for it, things like that. So I took him under my wing, and he ended up, obviously, instead of staying with government, he actually went and got a job with Deloitte making 6 figures. So he went from making 5 figures to 6 figures. But hey, help them out, right? Kind of thing. So, and you have to do what's right for you, folks, right? I mean, I'm just saying, right? So, and all these are going to want you to have, right, on the job experience, okay? You can't just come in right out of college and expect to get anything here anyways. They're going to want you to have that job experience. And so that's why internships are incredibly valuable, right? And it also shows, especially if somebody's giving you a shot, because with the nature of the high competitiveness of even internship programs, paid and unpaid, right? You know, if you have in an internship or gone through an internship or whatever, they're more than likely to take a second glance at you because somebody else saw value in you, right? First, okay? It matters, trust me. It's all optics. It really is optics, okay? It's like doing PR for you guys kind of thing, right? So that's why I was like the social media. Anytime I see one of you guys that have posted certification, if you notice, I'm resharing it, you know, as soon as I see it. If I overlook yours, it's not intentional, trust me. I just go on my phone, and when I'm on my phone and I see somebody's posted certification, I'm like, awesome. Or posted that they're with Chrysalis, I'm like, yeah, reshare, you know, and all that, because I want you guys to give visibility. It's about you guys, right? It's like, yeah, awesome. And do that for each other. You know, share each other's accomplishments, right? Because you never know who's watching, right? That can reach out and say, hey, you know, I might have a job for this person, right? Or whatever. I'm just saying, you know. So there's a lot of opportunity here, folks. And again, all of these here, I'll go ahead and do this one too. But I'll make sure you guys get links to every single thing here, okay? And then some. You know, in fact, let me go and put them in the chat now, okay? Let me do that, and then we'll open it up for questions, okay? So let me go and put them in the chat now and pull them down, and then we'll also put them in Nifty or somewhere else. Okay, so, and again, we'll have the next steps is I want you guys to take this information, start, of course, transitioning. You're gonna have a commercial resume and you're gonna have a federal resume for those that you are looking at federal jobs. Now, it does take the federal stuff. So even if you get through the selection process, it takes 8 or 9 months even for that, okay? Like when I was at State Department, I was contractor first, right? And it took, luckily I had a job while I was waiting for the government. So even though, yeah, I had the offer letter, it says, yeah, you've been accepted, all that kind of stuff. That process, where I took like, I think it was 9 months or something like that. And I had already had a clearance and all, I was already there. I was a contractor. But, you know, the government doesn't move on our time, they move on their time. So just note that even that process, even after you receive the offer letter itself, can take 7, 8, 9 months, right, for them to actually get you slid into and start getting money, okay? So keep all options open, don't quit your day job just yet, right? Those kind of things. You guys already know about OSINT, but I'm gonna put this in here anyways, okay? Let me send this last link and then we'll open it up for questions. So there's that, and then, okay, I believe that's the last link, but again, I'll post this also elsewhere. Maybe in an area, maybe in Nifty, so you can refer back to it, those links instead of in Discord. We'll find out, I'll talk to the moderators and see where would be the best, you know, place to kind of put them, so you guys can refer back to them, but pull them down, right? And then those of you that are interested, just ping me. You know, and then we'll have a smaller sub meeting, if you will, that's not recorded, okay? And then we can share it, or if you feel more comfortable doing one-on-one, let's go here, let me go do Calendly and I'll give you guys a link. So you guys, you know, because again, you're going to end up sharing PII, right? And I'm not going to record that at all. So, okay, it's not what I want. Then I'm saving it. Yeah, here's my thing. Okay, the one that, again, the intro discovery call, that's for on the website. That's only 15 minutes, so don't do those, okay? Because those are literally 15 minutes, and those are like, you know, try to see if somebody's even interested in an internship program or a course or anything like that, right? The one that you're gonna do is the mentorship session, okay? And again, I go over, you can ask everybody, I go over. So we'll start with 30 minutes and go from there. So you can more than welcome to schedule a one-on-one with me, or even a smaller, you know, if you're okay with it, I can do it in smaller groups or whatever with whomever you feel comfortable. But we'll go over then what you've done, right, in your resume, the cover letter, at least take a first stab at it. I'm not looking for perfection, just take a first stab at it. Because then at that time, we can use that meeting then for, you know, okay, so you've started, now let's improve upon it, right? And we can do it like that, vice just doing it from scratch. Like today, I look at it as this is the scratch. This is from scratch, this is the baseline meeting, right? I'm giving you the requirements. Now take that, implement what you can, knowing that it's not gonna be perfect, right? And I don't expect to be all filled out, like just have the shell even, you know, have the shell, if you will, a starter resume, a starter cover letter, then we can take and review, we can ask for the questions on, we can start looking at different jobs. What you need to do, and this is what I tell on the commercial side too, is, you know, look at the job itself, okay? Again, make sure the specific stuff is in your resume, okay? The verbiage, you know, it says do not cut and paste duties, special experience, occupational questionnaire from this announcement. Your resumes will not be considered as demonstration of qualifications. Okay, I agree with that, but you also need to make sure you have the words in there. So what you do though, however, is you use that fast class. Because here's the thing, this is what's so, you know, they tell you it's not Resumex, it's not a Resumex system, but that's BS, because the back end, it does do what we call that dirty word search, right? It looks for the words, it looks for frequency of the words, okay? And that's how your resume, and as long as you do the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, and abilities assessments it has, you don't say 8 out of 10 or whatever, if that's the thing. No, you better say 10 out of 10 out of 10 out of 10, okay? Because again, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are applying for the same job, okay? All over the nation, and then people coming back from overseas assignments, all that kind of stuff. And you're going against veterans and all kinds of things already. So I'm not trying to dissuade you from applying. No, apply, but make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's, okay? And the way to do that too, like I said, is pull from the FAST class, the database, right, for a similar job description, because again, that's what that back end looks like. And then what you do is, right, you go and tailor you know, your resume, right, to meet the requirements. Because again, they're just going to look at, right, do you meet the requirements? Check, 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 check. If you don't have, for instance, this on your resume, you have everything else, you don't meet the requirements, not 100%, right? This one says U.S. citizenship is required. Obviously, males, you know, it's for the selective service, and all that kind of stuff. If any of you have had the Peace Corps stuff, if any of you have been in the Peace Corps, that's like automatic selection for Department of State, for instance. Department of State loves Peace Corps applicants. So if you have Peace Corps, anything like that, make sure it's on your application, okay? They love that. They'll hire you in a heartbeat, honestly. You know, it says these qualifications must be met by the closing date. So you need to make sure everything's in before that date. I would say not by 4/12, by 4/11. Also, though, make sure you go back into your dashboard in USAJOBS and make sure everything's been submitted. Because sometimes you'd be surprised. You think you submit everything, it's not done. And it does take sometimes a bit to refresh. So make sure that you are going back in there regularly, and you can always check status. You can also set up alerts to find out where your resume is in the process, right? But again, strong attention to detail, okay? Customer service, oral communication, problem solving, presentation skills, all this stuff matter, right? So yeah, and of course, you know, all this stuff matters, folks, okay? This job doesn't have an education qualification requirements, but it does have on-the-job experience requirement, right? So again, everything matters, okay, is my point. And this one's got 99 to 129A per year. Now, what do you do? Okay, it's a range. Can you negotiate with the government? You cannot. Okay, I'm going to teach you guys negotiating skills with commercial industry. Now, you can, however, because they're going to look at knowledge, skills, and abilities and everything else, education, everything else. You get your offer letter. Like, for instance, I had an offer letter. It said GS15. I think it said step 8. And I said, this is not comparable to actually what I'm making. I would actually have to take a pay cut to take this job. So can you bump it up to a step 10, which is this amount, because obviously it's public. So at least I'm sliding into an equal of the current job that I was doing as a contractor, because otherwise it's no incentive. Then might as well just be, and I told them that, might as well just stay a contractor, right? Not a problem. And they said, okay, no problem. They went back. It took, I think, about 3 weeks, okay? And then they came back and yeah, they increased it from a step 8 to a step 10, right? So again, you can ask, you can, but don't be like demanding about it. It's all in how you message it and things like that. You know, it doesn't hurt to ask. All they can do is say no or yes, but it's a rarity. But like I said, I was able to leverage the fact of my contracting, and they are the ones that tapped me. Like, I didn't even go for that job, honestly. They're the ones that said, yeah, we'd love to have you here as government or whatever kind of thing. And so they already, you know, again, I already had the level up anyways, because they're the ones that reached out to me first. They made the first move, right? But I was like, look, I'm not going to take a pay cut. Right? If I don't have to, you know, that doesn't make any sense for me on my side, right? So, I mean, you know, I'd already served my country. Geez, I'm not going to take a pay cut. Forget that mess. So again, that's something that but it's all in how you deliver it, right? It's the message and stuff like that, right? You can negotiate in that way. Okay, is all I'm trying to say, but it's rare. Sometimes it's just like, no, it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. Okay. Also, make sure you're looking at this too. You know, are you willing to relocate? Is it telework eligible? This says, okay, this is a remote position. Okay, remote position, so completely remote. That's awesome. Expected travel, 5%. What does that entail, right? So start asking them that, right? You know, all that kind of stuff, right? Oh, it's a drug test. No, that's kind of odd, but I'm guarantee you it's drug tests. That's probably got overlooked. It's probably got overlooked, because all these really require drug tests and stuff. But anyways, yeah, so make sure you're following through, and like, and if there's anything, sometimes they do have, you really shouldn't be outreaching them. On your resume too, you want to include this, and you want to be tracking these too, because track the announcement numbers and stuff like that, and make sure that you don't have a duplicate of efforts, of course. Also, if you're going for the same, be very careful too if you are seeing, let's just say you have a GS9 and a GS12. Don't do that in the same, go for just one. I know people say, okay, go for multiple. Don't do that, because it's almost like they'll cancel each other out. Okay, now, can you go for, let's just say, a GS12 at Health and Human Resources, and then you can go for a GS12 in Department of State? Absolutely. Can you put in different bureaus? Absolutely. So if you're interested in, let's just say the IRM Bureau, okay, Information Resource Management, which is all the operations stuff within Department of State, you can definitely put in a GS-12, let's just say there. Also put in a GS-12 position at the Consular Affairs for passport and visa systems at CACST, for instance. Absolutely. Right. They're fine with that, but be watching what you're doing and where you're sending these. Okay. If you have any questions, just reach out. Okay. Just reach out. I'll be more than happy to help you and also look at it and say, no, actually, you don't qualify for this one at all. I wouldn't even waste your time. However, let's look at another one that you do, so you have a higher rate of success, right? Have a peer review done so that to help you, like I said, just navigate through it and make sure you have everything that you need and things like that. It does help, because if there are misspellings, if there's anything, I mean, every little thing matters. I mean, think of it this way, okay? There are hundreds of thousands of applicants. So number one, you want to make sure you stand out amongst the hundreds of thousands of applicants, but even when they get to the top 10, okay, and maybe they only have one position to fill, okay, you got to be the creme de la creme, not just on your resume. So you better not have a mistake at all. So that's why I have a peer review, because we all make mistakes. I mean, we all do. I do too, right? So I'm just saying we all do, right? So and then practice the interviewing. Okay, practice the interviewing. So we'll do mock interviews too. Like I have a whole lot of the Discord channel, and a lot of these resources are already here, by the way, in the resume LinkedIn area. They're already here. Okay, some of them. I don't think all of them. I think there's a couple more that I need to put in here, but a lot of the ones that I shared with you are actually in here already. So the other one I'm going to share with you though, and this is again why the Discord was set up, is to share information, that we're able to share. So if we go into, let's just say, mock interviews, where is that? The interview stuff. I don't know. Where is it? I know I changed, I think, the name of it somewhere. Industry exams, interview prep. Here it is. Interview prep. Okay. So if you notice, right, there's a lot of different positions. Mock interviews, governing, of course, specific stuff. Okay. So again, look at what you're doing. If it's an ISO position, if it's a SOC analyst, if it's a whatever, right? And it's not going to say SOC analyst, so for government positions, it's going to say, but look at what you're doing, because it's all going to say IT specialist. It'll say INFOSEC or network admin or whatever it is, right? So again, whatever it is and whatever you see in the job description, right, you want to pull up and start kind of looking at, like, for instance, let's just pull this one up, right? Now, government is going to ask a lot more behavioral questions, scenario-based questions. So some of it's going to be straightforward, okay, stuff like you would see on an assessment on a test. Most of it, though, however, are going to be actually governing behavioral type questions, scenario-based questions. Like what do you do to remain up to date on the latest trends and developments in cybersecurity and the ways to breach that security, right? What are you doing personally? I mean, seriously, what are you doing, right? Anybody want to answer that as an example, just as a practice? Right, anyone? What are you doing?
I keep up with the news on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and Reddit, and usually within areas where it's known to have people within the industry in it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, and then, like I said, there's US CERT, there's lots of listservs, there's News Fusion. You guys, I definitely recommend. It's called News Fusion. You can pull it down. It's a free app on your phone too. I tell my students let's do News Fusion. So it's awesome. It's one word. So use that. There's SANS.org. You can get the newsletters, things like that, right? So pull things that we pull down from government, right? So get to know what they're using and tapping into as authoritative sources. That's important, right? Because Twitter, yeah, social media is a start, but again, a lot of that can take you down a rabbit hole or be inaccurate information, okay? But good, but thank you though, that's awesome, right? And that's why we practice this, right? So I'm just trying to help you. That's a good start. Now let's polish it, right? Now, what methods do you use when planning a system security, right? So anybody want to try to answer that? There's like 5 questions here. So let's just kind of do a mini practice. It's an open-ended question. You know, so what do you do when planning a system security? Anyone?
I could answer again. That's okay.
Okay.
There's the OS top 10, so that's one of the things I would look into and make sure that my system is running within the regulations that and recommendations that OS top 10, for example, has, and certain regulations and certain recommendations that are key for infrastructures like OS. Basically compare and contrast to the systems that they already have running.
Okay, excellent. That's a good start. Okay, there's also the CIS benchmarks, right? And the STIGs, right? So go to where the government's going to get their stuff, right? So CIS benchmarks, right? So these are, they're almost like what we call gold discs, if you will. Now, most commercial, a lot of commercial use this, but some government actually does too. Okay, it's device hardening stuff, okay? Now, this is from a vendor, so be very careful with that. I don't like to go and pull from vendor stuff. Okay, but at least it's got some information on it. The other thing too is, you know, public.cyber.mil. There's the cve.miter.org. There's public.cyber.mil. Let's go there, right? Because that's got the STIGs, the Security Technical Information Guides. Okay, and everybody uses this. It's going to come up and say DISA, DOD, right? But we all use this, okay? We all use this guidance, okay? So, you know, again, public.cyber.mil. In fact, let me put this in the here while I'm doing this here. You guys can take a look at it, right? So they're going to want to hear things in which marry up with, oh, it's got the 8140 there too. Did you see that? It's awesome. So we'll pull that up from here in a minute too. See what they changed on here, the digital format. Awesome. Okay. So if you go to the documentation library, okay, never comes up. Okay. The reason why you go to the documentation library is because then it provides a search criteria. These are security technical information guides. So these take and you can tweak all the way down to the registry settings and a variety of other things that go even further to what than the user guides actually mandate and or provide. Okay, so it's additional tweaking, and our Tenable Nessus and many of our other vulnerability scanning tools look for STIG compliance, CVE compliance, patch compliance. So this is one of the many resources that commercial and government industry use. You know, I can actually click on, for instance, cloud, or let's just say operating systems, right? There's 52 in there, right? You know, so Ubuntu, you know, Active Directory Forest, Mac, right? All that kind of stuff. I can even look at, let me deselect that, of course, and I can look for, let's just say, gateway, you know, the gateway router stuff. So let me see. There's wearable devices, you know, even, right? All that kind of stuff. Cloud, right? If I can, like, there's cloud stuff, you know, cloud security, right? Even firewall. So like if that's for Akamai, let me deselect this. And of course I can pull up, let's just say, you know, like Palo Alto, for instance, right? Palo Alto or a Cisco, right? So this is not just for operating, you know, even network devices have operating systems on them, okay? A lot of them are run on C code, that kind of stuff too. So they all need to be further tweaked, if you will, further secured, okay? We use the Security Technical Information Guides. We also use the CVE, right, list, which is managed by MITRE, right? These are all government and commercial industry stuff that they're gonna wanna hear in the interview, that you're actually tapping into the resources, right? I can search the CVE list, for instance, right? You don't have to have these memorized, but let's just say good old Zoom, right? Good old Zoom, which I have a bone to pick with them. But, you know, there's a lot of vulnerabilities, right? If you look at common vulnerabilities and exposures is what the CVE stands for. You know, 2023 is the year, and of course 28597 is the number, right? So again, it provides guidance. You know, attack.miter.org and a variety of other things. So there's a lot of different resources, right, that we'll use. NIST 853, right, that kind of stuff. So a lot of these things that we'll definitely use to help pull from different resources and apply for government regulation, regulatory compliance, and cyber compliance, right, and business compliance, and a variety of other things, because it all matters. So again, start getting to know these resources, start getting familiar. Are you going to memorize these? No, but you know that Tenable Nessus, for instance, pulls from the STIGs, right? The public.cyber.mil pulls from the STIGs compliance, patch compliance for the relevant vendors you're utilizing, and of course, you know, CVEs, right? And if it finds anything, it'll alert you in the report, and then you have to do research. Sometimes it'll gig it automatically in critical, high, moderate, or low, right, findings in the report. And sometimes it'll even have guidance on how to mitigate it. Other times it doesn't. So you have to go to authoritative sources to include vendor sources, not just Googling. If I go to Microsoft, or I have an MCSE, right? So for those of you too, I do recommend getting an MCP or an MCSE too for Microsoft. Microsoft is still one of the bigger daddy vendors on the planet. Can't get around it. It is what it is, right? So, you know, when you get the opportunity, I'm not saying right now, but work towards that in the near future, right? Now, for Microsoft, I'm not going to just Google a problem. Where do you think I would go if I want to know about Microsoft vulnerabilities or anything for that matter? Any guesses? Right, TechNet.
CVE.
TechNet, T-E-C-H-N-E-T, TechNet, right? Or if you go, you know, make sure you're following through with the Microsoft approved sanction of whatever website, right? Those types of things. Because even the error messages, when we look at error messages, even from operations or cyber, right? We need to, every vendor has their own list of error messages. Even my own product, we have our own list of error messages, right? So it's important to go to authoritative vendor sites to really get that information and crosswalk it as an operational issue or is it a cyber issue? And then who owns the problem? Because if it's the vendor that owns the code, you want to contact the vendor. Don't just assume that they know either. They may not know. They rely on bi-directional communication from all of us to continue to evolve and continue to patch and, of course, bug fix, right? Different things. And so alert them as soon as you know. Don't just assume they know. Okay. If they own the problem, right? So if it's their code, then of course you need to let them know. If it's something on our side, maybe it's on our back thing, maybe it's a group thing, maybe it's whatever, then something we can do and fix. Identify then who owns the problem, who can fix the problem, who actually has the administrative role or privileges to actually fix and follow through the problem. One of the bigger mistakes I found in a lot of agencies, Department of State included, they had over thousands of unmitigated findings in consular affairs. Okay, is it due to negligence? Not necessarily. What it was is that they had gigged they were using Remedy ITSM, which is a trouble ticketing solution, which that's why I'm gonna, I can't afford Remedy ITSM. I'm not a big enterprise. I'm gonna use something else, but at least you'll get exposure to that because that's the way we do. We use trouble ticketing, help desk, service desk types of stuff. So okay, even with findings, okay. The findings were identified pursuant to reports, and they were actually binned in, like there was a firewall group, for instance. They just assumed that it went to the right group. It wasn't actually. A lot of these findings, there was another gentleman that actually had the rights and privileges to these specific firewalls in question. Okay, so doing that, root cause analyses, don't just volley it over somebody else and then start, the cyber dashboard saying, okay, CIO or whomever, right, authorizing official. It's like, yeah, we've got 1,200 findings, but only 200 have been mitigated. We're still waiting on this other team. No, go and find out what the problem is. Sometimes operations folks don't have cyber knowledge either. Surprisingly, I know, but think about it from this perspective. Operations are brilliant folks. They're there to build it, stand it up, keep it running. Okay, that's a lot within itself. Okay, that's a huge undertaking, right? So, if in fact they knew and had the depth and breadth of knowledge in cyber and can fix a lot of the problems at the level it needed to be on the cyber side, the C and the I, not just the A, because they do deal with the A, the availability component of the CIA triad. Our job is the C and the I, complementing what they're doing with the A. Okay, I'm just going to say, right, for the data. So, if they really had all that knowledge, do you really think a cybersecurity specialty would be needed? Yes or no?
No.
No.
Exactly, right? So keep that in mind. There's a lot of ego in IT, and a lot of them too won't even admit that they don't know. So give them additional guidance on how to fix the problem, and then follow through to make sure that they are fixed. So follow up, say, are we still on track, right, to get this done? Is there anything else? Maybe a tech refresh, right? That's why we have configuration control boards as well in environments, because there'll be different stakeholders sitting around the table, like the CISO, there'll be the test engineer representative, there'll be dev, of course, if we're doing any development, the operations side, right? Security will be in there, right? There's a lot of us in there that'll be around that table because we all have to get an understanding of the different projects underway. So like, let's just say we want all these critical patches being mitigated like right now, okay? Oh yeah, let's go in there and autocratic and right now. No, okay, but here's the deal. We have to test them, right? To ensure there's no interoperability issues and that kind of stuff. Then the other thing is, we also have to look at other projects underway. So for instance, these critical patches just might be in that next release that we already have that's already been tested, that's gonna be rolled out in a week. Do we wait a week, right? That's something then you need to work with your CISO or your CIO to determine, is this too much of a risk to wait for that tech refresh or that upgrade to the new release? Or should we go ahead and push the patches now, right? And then of course, still do the tech refresh, right? People are overwhelmed, they're overtasked, right? With a lot of stuff, right? So you need to take that into consideration. Don't be going to the resource manager yourself, leverage that CISO to make that, give him or her, right? The information, right? We're fact finders, we're the analysts, whether you like to say it or not, we are. We provide the facts based upon risk, right? We arm our, we basically manage up, we arm our decision makers with the informed information to make an informed, smart decision on resource management and allocation, right? So it might just be that, yeah, that resource operations resource, yeah, we're already gonna roll this out in 2 weeks, why do we need to touch this? You've now informed the CIO already, even before that table, and said, yeah, we need to do this because we have a lot of, if this could be the potential impact, right? If this were to happen between now and the 2 weeks, we honestly can't wait for this one. Ordinarily, I'd say okay, but in this case, I'd say not, and this is why, A, B, C, and D. Provide a robust justification, right, for your recommendation. That's what we do. Help the leaders make a more informed, right, a decision based upon that information and the risk. And then allow them to say, well, okay, operations manager, I get what you're saying. I know this is going to be a lot more work. And we're going to have to slide that release, that update to the right, maybe a week, but we really do need to push these patches down, right? Allow him or her to take that hit. Don't put yourself in the middle, okay? So that's the way we do it, okay? Because again, a lot of people have, it's almost like their Atlas, right? They have a lot of stuff on their shoulders. They're just trying to keep the stuff just up and running, just straight up on top of everything else. So, don't be going and assigning, individual engineers or whatever. We don't do that. We work through the team leads. Okay, the resource managers, hello, that's why I've got it in the way that we've got it in the internship. There's a rhyme, there's a reason for this stuff, because I'm getting you guys real, knowledge on really how we do this in the real world, right? The technology might be a little bit different, though absolutely it's gonna be different from organization to organization, all right? But the way we manage teams is somewhat similar, right? So again, there is a method to the madness even with the internship program to make sure you have the knowledge, skills, and abilities and what you need, to be able to, then you're not deer in the headlights when you move somewhere else. And nothing happens all at once anyways. When we do migrations, it could take months. So the fact you got the nifty migration, right, fast, right? It was like within a week or something. You guys are like, now, right? But honestly, that's not the way government rolls. That's not the way IT rolls. Okay, I'm just saying it doesn't happen like right then. It requires, some forethought, some planning. Sometimes it takes months. Even with a new release, we have to test it in a test environment, right? So even though the new release might come out in 6 months, we can't just roll it out right away. We had to put it through a test, make sure that it's not going to impact mission operations, because remember, we're impacting the production environment now, folks. It's not like in academics, you can blow out your Oracle VirtualBox, right, and be done and recover from a snapshot. Okay, but that's not realistic. That's not the way we roll in production. You take something down, it could cause huge impact on mission operations and the ability for people to do their job. And there's a huge cost against that. I mean, look at Amazon, for instance. If the e-commerce server that they use, right, were to go down for a specific period of time, there's actually a cost matrices that's done. It's called a business impact analysis that the business side will do. And that feeds our contingency planning efforts, because it'll look at, okay, so how long can actually this go down before it's like dire, right? Like, and how much is the loss of money, right? Because they look at it from the standpoint of money. Same with the government though. What's the loss, right? What's the RTO time? All these things matter. So we're going to talk about that kind of stuff too. That's why I give you guys different families of controls. But then every week I want you guys to kind of just brief me on it, right? Just follow through the motions, whatever you have, right? These are some of the gaps we found. These are some things we discussed and analyzed and researched together as a team. And this is how we feel we can improve. These are the absolute gaps you don't have in your company. Okay, great, thank you, right? Which I know there's a lot of gaps. So it's a perfect use case. And then of course, these are some recommendations we can make, whether we talk technology or operations or whatever it is, right, that need to be done. You're going to do the same thing then to the companies I'm going to be introducing you to, right? Same thing. You're going to make recommendations. So I need you to start somewhere to get used to that, and then how to professionally present, right, findings, recommendations, and alternatives. Because honestly, that's what we do. We're the analyst, okay? We research risk. We do cost benefit analyses on tools, right, that we're going to use or we're recommending, right? We do risk-based assessment, enterprise impact assessments, all kinds of things for everything. That's our job. We look at the potential risk to an organization even before we acquire a tool, right? That kind of stuff. So there's a lot involved. It's multi-layers, and the 853 Rev 5 is an outstanding introduction in how to implement really good sound security strategy from the bottom up. And again, you can take that into even a large enterprise and look at always areas of improvement and things that they're not doing, because a lot of that's going to be enforcement. Honestly, it's going to be enforcement. So anyways, I hope that helps. I know that was a lot tonight, but again, that's why I kind of wanted to keep these different focus areas so we can focus on that one, because I can talk for days. I mean, everybody knows that. And but I wanted to kind of stay focused on a specific focus area, right? We'll start here, and then we'll have, you know, additional meetings, maybe a spin-off of the smaller segments of those of you that are absolutely dead set on federal, you feel you meet the requirements, right? Then let's have the smaller group sessions where we can help you with mock interviews and help you with your resume and things like that. And those of you that don't feel comfortable, right, then definitely, you know, again, schedule the meeting with me using the Calendly link, right? So that I provided to you guys in the chat box. Okay, it's also in the Discord channel as well. Don't use these because, like I said, this is on the website, yes, but that's the 15-minute intro call. I mean, you guys are already part of the team. So just here's for mentorship. That's what this is for. Okay, so use that link, and let me go ahead and copy the link again. Okay, I'll put it in the chat box for those of you that want to. Are you guys able, when you play it back, because I don't think you're able to see what's in the chat. Right?
Yeah, I see your links.
Do you see the links even in the, well, I mean, after when you play it back in the playback, are you guys able to see the links? Or is it just the video?
Yes, we
Just
can.
No,
Okay,
it's
I wasn't
video.
able to. Earlier, I was watching the other webinar. I wasn't.
okay.
I
All right, so
opened the webinar and phone so I can see all the texts, but in computer it's not showing. There's just one. No, it's gone. That too.
I have it all
Okay.
copy and pasted so I can share it with everybody.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, and I'll definitely copy and paste this. So where do you think we should start putting these, honestly? Because I do have a lot of stuff on Discord, but from meeting to meeting where it's job focused, where do you all, where would be a good place for you all to reference these links from these various focus webinars outside of
I
here?
think the discussion board will be good because we are able to see and all the team leaders can
Yeah, maybe the discussion board, that should be good.
Okay, excellent. All right, so let's do that then. Yeah, let's definitely then post this in the discussion board so everybody has access to it. And again, it's going to take a little bit, probably a couple hours or whatever, you know, for the recording. So I know many of you, that your team members are probably going to ask. You know, the other thing, you know, for the recording, so just, you know, patience is definitely a virtue. When it is available, trust me, I'll post it. So do you want me to just post it? I'll give it to the moderators then to post, so you guys can post in the discussion board instead of putting it in the Discord, if that's okay, if that's where we're going to maintain it, which is fine, actually, which is actually works out really well. Yeah, wherever you guys feel would be the best way to put it, that's fine, absolutely. Whatever's convenient for you all to pass down to your teams for communication. I did want to bring this up too, because I don't know what you guys are seeing now, of course. That's why I was kind of asking you. Remember, I was like, I know it's 51, but just register for all of them. So in the event of one that you may want to, you know, watch, then there's not an issue with block of access or whatever. So this was, of course, the current link. And of course, once this is done today, you know, it'll no longer show this. It'll show the next one in the lot, the very first one. But definitely register for them because, again, each one of them are going to be a focus area. Some of them, of course, are going to be tasks and projects, right, kind of stuff. But others are going to be, you know, definitely focused areas. But regardless whether or not you're able to make it or not, you know, you'll still get access to the recording, so no worries. If there is something you see and you have any questions, just, you know, provide that through the moderators or your team leads or whatever. So let's find a mechanism by which, you know, we can kind of collect all the questions, if you will, maybe some of them that you may have even preemptive of, maybe you're not going to be able to attend one of the webinars and say, yeah, but I'd like to ask this question. Definitely provide it so that we have it, so that whether it's me or another speaker, right, that we can actually answer that in the recording, okay, or answer it in another means. So I definitely want to make sure all your questions are answered in whatever way we can. Now, you guys should have the webinar ID too. So if something happens, you're unable to register for this, you have the webinar ID, and I believe I put that, I think if you go into the announcements section, and again, this is only for you guys and the moderators, nobody has access to this. So, because again, this is a perk for you guys anyways. So that's, you know, so yeah, I put the webinar ID in here too. So if you're not able to get, for whatever reason, hopefully you'll be able to authenticate using the webinar ID in your email or what have you. So yeah, so let's also follow up with our teammates, right, and find out who attempted to gain access but wasn't able to get access, because I want to, you know, help identify, maybe troubleshoot and work through any issues they may have, so they don't have any other issues gaining access to any other future webinars either, right? So let's make sure we do that for them too, realizing that yes, it'll be recorded, but there's nothing like the live session, right? I'm just going to say, because you can ask the live questions at that time, right? All right, awesome. Let me see if there's any questions in the question box here.
I do have a question regarding the resume.
Yes.
So my background of work, after long gap, I start working. So that gap is always like, it's an excuse for rejection, and other companies, I want to apply for it, and I get always the rejection. What is your recommendation about that gap? So it's kind of like confusing for them, like why I have like 2 years gap, then I start again for the cybersecurity.
Okay, if you don't mind me asking, and you don't have to answer that here if you don't feel comfortable. Okay, but what was the reason for the gap? And again, if you don't feel comfortable, don't do that. Just you can ping me directly. You know, because again, it's how you frame it. Go ahead.
The first job I start as a cashier. Then I was enrolled in a boot camp, and I was studying there like for a couple of months. And the boot camp, the company, they closed the business, which was like in a real world, the real companies, all data we are working with the network and monitoring and everything. Then after that, there was a pandemic start, and also I get pregnant with my second child. So there was a long gap. Then I start in 2022. Again, there's another boot camp. I start as a SOC analyst, and they're like, it's questionable for them all the time, like why it's long.
That's okay. Nope, excellent. Yep. And so that's another thing that on the resume, because again, even with federal, you know, the clearance is something you have to explain the gaps. So, but it's a way you go about it, right? You're being honest and transparent, but it's a way you go about it. So we'll definitely cover that. You know, so, and then because it's all optics, right? It's perception too. So yeah, if you have a gap and you don't explain it, like I know people that have taken a sabbatical, you know, so, you know, people that, you know, have a health issue, or people that have to take off to be able to take care of a loved one, or even during the pandemic or whatever. So there are instances like that. It's then how you frame it and message it on the resume. So I'll work with you individually. So definitely just schedule a time with me, right? Using my Calendly link, right? And then we'll work with you individually, okay, to kind of cover that. And I'll help to kind of, again, we'll get a little more information at that time, and we'll help to turn what's perceived as a negative, you know, into a positive, right? Because you have to explain it. You just can't leave the gap off, and, you know, and all that. So you have to explain it, because when they do see a gap, no matter what it is, that is going to be a negative perception, but it's all you have to explain that gap, right? So that's okay. I'll work with you individually on this, and we'll change it to a positive, okay? No worries at all.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, great question. Of course, absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm here for. That's part of the program, folks, is this support, this mentorship, the guidance, all that stuff comes part of this support, okay? So, yeah, I mean, don't be afraid to ask questions. That's what we're here for. And yeah, I'm here to help, okay? And I've got other folks that will help too. So we've got this, okay? And we've got you. So I appreciate your honesty and transparency and your vulnerability. And let's go ahead and yeah, we'll make sure and again, just change it to a positive. That's another reason why I like to do mock interviews with you all, because there's certain things that people kind of look for. Just like, were you aware that even when you're asked about hobbies, for instance, Like if I was to say right now, as a test, I'm just gonna say, no right or wrong answer, because I'm just gonna tell you how to change it to a positive, okay, as an example. So what kind of hobbies do you do outside of, let's just say, the internship, right? Anybody want to take that just as a practice?
I mean, I'm a very outdoor person, so typical Texas stuff, fishing, shooting.
Okay, that's good if that's your friend, okay? But what's really odd, and this, I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be, it's gonna blow your mind. But even something like that, okay? Look, not a problem. You do that. That's on your side. But what they're looking for is hobbies as it relates to the job, right? So if you're doing cyber, they're looking for cyber hobbies, okay? I mean, be honest with it, but you know. So now, when I say, let's go ahead and reframe it now. So, so what type of hobbies do you do outside of the internship, right? Or have you been doing outside the internship? Now, what are you gonna say?
I would say I listen to Darknet Diaries weekly.
There we go. Right? Makes a difference. Honestly,
Walking
it's
some boxes on
optic
Hackbox.
perception. There we go. Yeah, stuff like that. Okay. So make sure all of you, when you guys are even commercial and federal, it's almost like they want you to be die hard, you know, die hard. And I need to get back with her. I'm so sorry. I need to get back with her and do that for her. So I owe some stuff to some of you, and I'll be doing that. Trust me. Okay. But with that said, right? Yeah. So just again, all these little things, it's the small things that matter, right? And so, yeah, hobbies, it's almost like, I don't know, it's just strange. But if you just say, like, I used to play basketball. I was actually on basketball. I was varsity. And then, of course, I played at unit level in the service. I love basketball. But if I'm getting interviewed for a cyber position, I better not say basketball. I better say, that's fine to do offline with my friends, right? Absolutely. But then I better say, you know, things like, you know, building machines at home or whatever. I'm just saying, you know, whatever it is, okay? Also talk about how you're demonstrating understanding and how you're securing your home network, because good cyber hygiene starts at home, right? If you can't even secure your home network, how on earth are we going to trust you to secure hundreds of thousands of endpoints in an enterprise? I mean, look at that from that perspective, right? So that's another reason, another way too, even in the hobbies or what you're doing or whatever, you can talk with how you're applying at home. Now you have the internship program too. We're going to be using VPN, IPsec tunnels. You're going to be using Jump Cloud, vulnerability management, and SIMs and all kinds of stuff, right, that come as part of that. So you're going to have all this access and knowledge. But now, not only did I do it in academic, but I also did this in a real world setting in a production environment. And I've done A, B, C, and D at my home, right? So that then helps them to understand, yeah, they know what they're doing then. They at least know how to at least demonstrate understanding. They're not just doing a book knowledge kind of a situation. Like, it's like doctors, right? Doctors get, medical doctors, right? They have book knowledge, but then they have to do like a 2-year residency, right? Before they even get their licenses and certifications, right? So similarly with cyber, yeah, okay, you're getting the education, right? But then have you done the work, the job, the actual job, right? So that's why internships are so incredibly important. Whether it be unpaid or paid doesn't matter, because it still counts. Volunteer at your local Boys and Girls Club, that counts. What you do at home, right? That counts, right? Because it's a production environment at home, right? You know, and again, take this also, these interview questions, these are also in the Discord, but I'm gonna put them here too, because these are some really good ones to start kind of looking at, you know, the behavioral scenario questions, because you're going to hear a lot more about that. You know, they already know, okay, you passed the industry exam, you passed school, you're good at test taking, great, awesome, great job. You know, that's awesome, right? In its own right. I'm not trying to detract from that, but what I'm trying to say is now, okay, how do you apply that then to a real world setting? Okay, so like this one, you know, what kind of security do you have on your home system? What do you have on your phones right now, folks? Do you have an antivirus on your phone? Who has an antivirus on the phone? Anybody here?
Yes, I have the Malwarebytes.
I don't have anything.
Right, that phone is an operating system, right, with applications and everything. So install Lookout or whatever on your phone, right? Those types of things. So again, all that stuff matters, right? So, you know, that's a computer in your pocket, okay? So, you know, backups, how are you doing the backups? You know, other kind of stuff. How are you doing at your home? Do you have your IoT devices on a guest network kind of thing? Do you have antivirus running at your home? Did you change the password on your router, your gateway router, not just your Wi-Fi password, but you actually pass around your router, kind of that stuff. Or you look at the logs on the router. I mean, all that stuff, right? So that's what I'm saying is it starts there first. And so let's get you to do that so you can actually demonstrate understanding even on your home system. That matters, right? And then of course, what you're doing for an organization like Chrysalis.ai and all these other companies you're going to be, you know, look, if you can't do it at your home, how are we going to trust you to do it anywhere else, right? So start there first. Start educating, you know, your kids and stuff are surrounding you, right? So to make better decisions, right? I mean, all kinds of stuff. You'll look, we're going to get through this, and every little thing matters. It does. Okay, it does. You know, so all these things. So definitely take and start formulating questions. We'll have mock interview sessions or what have you. And again, we're going to do focus stuff surrounding different job focused areas, because again, there's some for cloud specific positions, some for SOC, some for pen testing, some for a variety of things. So that's why we'll do specific things. So those of you that are interested, I'm just going to rock and roll, man. We're going to start testing it out and start transitioning what could be perceived as a negative into a positive. And even if it's already positive, we're going to polish it, okay, to make sure that no matter what, you stand out above the other person. Here's the other thing. Were you aware, even in federal resume interviews, okay, federal and commercial, even following up, wait till about 30 to 45 minutes, you get home because you know you're off that adrenaline high, right, kind of thing. Your emotions are stable now because you're like, okay, you're not nervous anymore, it's done, okay? Get in the car, but get home first. Then you're going to do a follow-up email, okay, with the interviewer, okay, and the interviewers if it's a panel, and thank them for the time today, right? Thank them, okay? Provide them anything else you had promised, right? Just wanted to follow up with, right? This information that I had promised you or whatever, stuff like that. You know, just all kinds of stuff. Just that little thing, because here's the thing. There might only be one position open, and you may not get that job. It might be somebody else that's a better fit. However, that doesn't mean 6 months from now, and they say, you know what? Who was that person that actually sent us the thank you email? It's like, who was that, right? Oh, you know, that was Marvin, or that was Alita, or that was Ashley, right? So let's call them back and see if they're still available, because this new position, I believe they would be a fit for, right? That matters, that follow-up, because it's customer interface, right? Client interface, just that simple saying thank you. Many of you said thank you. Trust me, I noted it. That means a lot. Those little things absolutely matter. And that could actually separate you, especially when we're trying to make that final decision. Let's just say there's 10 of you that are equally like want to hire all of you, but I only have maybe 2 positions. That's it, right? So, you know, and of course, only 2 of you then out of all of you are equally matched on everything, right? I'm trying to make a decision. You guys are all awesome. And it's like, okay, so help me make a decision. So basically, the 2, right, that submitted, let's just say a thank you, right? I'm like, yep, okay, that's it. They made my decision for me, right? You know, those little things matter, I'm just gonna say, because there's hundreds of resumes that we have to go through, you know, and how do you make yourself stand out? That's a huge one. That is a huge one, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, all those little things, everybody's like, yeah, no worries, I'm not gonna worry about it. No, you should. You should follow up. And you may not get the job then, but again, you just might get a call back later when there's another opening, right? I've seen that happen, and I've also done that with other folks. So trust me when I say it works. And we remember it, okay? We might have to go back to our emails and say, wait a minute, let's do a search, because maybe we don't remember your name specifically because it was 6 months ago, but we'll go back and say, okay, that's who it was. It was Marvin, or it was Alita, or Ashley, or whomever. So whatever, you know, and then we'll give you a call back, more than likely, okay? But yeah, it does matter. All right, any other questions or anything before we, because I can go on and on and on if you let me. Any other questions? I know it's a Friday night too, and I appreciate your time as well. Go ahead.
So for those transitioning out of the military, is there a way to extend the clearance? So I have 2 years left for secret clearance, and I'm trying to find a way if I can extend it past 10.
Yeah, excellent. So you're going to need to put in a job now. When do you get out? When is your ETS or your retirement? Are you ETSing or retiring?
I'm ETSing.
Okay.
2 months from now. 2 months from now.
Okay, and you have 2 more years anyways on your clearance?
Yes, I have 2 more years.
Yeah, then you're good. You're fine. What you do is then you'll have time. It will, after about 2 years, 2 months, if you will, of non-use of a clearance, then of course, it basically is no good. But even if you're in between jobs, let's say you're in between jobs and you have a year or two left, as long as you get a job in that interim, you're still good. You get a visitor access request and things, and then you'll get that reinvestigation then when it's due regardless. Somebody just needs to take access of your, control or ownership of your clearance. That's what happens. What is your MLS right now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm Seaburn, chemical specialist.
Okay, you're chemical specialist. All right, and you will more than likely have a clearance with that. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You're transitioning into cyber, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that all counts. Are you? I know you don't have formal disability yet, but are you going to put in? Are you going to end up being a disabled vet when you get out, or? What do you
No,
think?
I'm not. So I'm.
Okay.
I'm just I'm not gonna have any disabilities. It's just the clearance that I'll be taking out of the military with me.
Okay, no worries, no worries. So what you can do, right, and what we all do is towards the end there, because you can actually be working, like while you're on ETS leave, okay, or retirement leave, right, you can actually start working during that time. So you can actually be double dipping because you can be getting money from the military because you're getting paid on leave because you're getting paid leave, COLA and everything else, right, all that kind of stuff, BAH and all that. But then you can also start working already in a position. So when do you ETS, you said? Sorry about that. When do you ETS?
So, I ETS in 2 months. So I'm actually not active. I'm in the National Guards, and
That's
right now
okay. That's fine.
I'm working right now as a contractor for the Marines at the same time.
Okay. Is it but you're doing chemical support, or is it something else?
It's IT support, like a field service.
That's perfect. Yeah. That's perfect. So are you gonna continue with them, or what are you gonna do? You're gonna continue with the Marines?
I'm trying to look for a cyber role after this internship. I'm not planning to stay in it.
Okay. All right. So what I do recommend for those of you that are working with any particular employer, even if it's a non-cyber role, if you're really good with them, right, and they're happy with your service, if you will, then it's a shoe-in then to just look at in that same, if it's the Marines or if it's, let's just say, Macy's or whatever, because they all have cyber, right, roles. You might be retail at Macy's, let's just say, but you're looking for a cyber role or something like that. You're doing really well with them. A lot of folks would love loyalty because it's what we call reskilling. There's upskilling and there's reskilling. And reskilling is taking, like even Amazon. Amazon has a contract with Flatiron School where they're actually paying them for the boot camp for folks that, let's just say they're a warehouse manager and they want to get into cyber. And so it's a 3-month boot camp. So they actually pay them for adult reskilling because they'd rather have loyalty within the company, right? They're staying with Amazon. Yes, they're able to retain good employees, but they're just reskilling, right, from warehouse to now cyber. So look to that as an option as well. I'll talk with you as well on that one-on-one, and we can start looking at options, not only with your current employer getting into cyber, right, but then of course, obviously other opportunities as well. And you want to be putting out for several opportunities because, right, you want to have multiple things to choose from because then you can negotiate, right? You can say, yeah, I've got these 3 offer letters in hand, right? This is the one I really want, but it's not as high of salary. You can then take the one, maybe you got more salary, but it's not, maybe it's a shift work job, maybe for SOC, and you're like, yeah, I kind of don't want to do that because I have kids. This one is a day job, but it's less money, right? You can then go back and use that other offer letter. So, I'm entertaining another offer. I really want to work here at this with you guys. I really want to work here. The other one's more, and they'll ask, okay, how much more? It's about $25,000. We can't match 25,000, but we can match 20,000. Would that be okay? So at least you get an increase, right? And then you can make a determination, like based upon your needs, right, whether or not that's the best fit for you and your family situation. So we'll talk about all of that and more. Again, I like to do tailored one-on-one discussions as well because, again, everyone has different background. Everyone comes from different things, and so I like to take and let's highlight the very best of you, right, for that. And then of course we do smaller group sessions, right? But I'll do one-on-ones as well. I do that all the time. So, but yeah, we can definitely talk this further and start. First of all, we need to get your resume on point. We need to get all the stuff. We need to start. And of course, you right now you have an internship, right? So you're in cyber right now. So this is the job, folks. It counts. paid and unpaid internships is a job. Volunteering is a job, okay? You may or may not getting, money from that. What I'm trying to do too is work out a deal, folks, with the folks that I'm pairing you guys up with or marrying you guys up with, is to get them to like pay for the service also, that we can pass that down to you for project by project. So that's what I'm also trying to work out. So we got the vouchers, right? 20%, okay, check. Other things I'm trying to do, of course, is to get you guys through the relationships. Again, the try before you buy scenario, right? It's just enough to get them to say yes, to give you guys a chance with my cat. I apologize, you guys. She's okay. But then also for those that are able to pay, right, or what have you. But that, again, that can be passed down to you guys. You guys also maybe could get a paid opportunity out of this too, even if it's for a short period of time, or if they're even able to hire you longer term, right? So again, the goal is to get you a job. This is just a springboard. So, anyways, those are some options that we're looking at, what have you, because I'm trying to get them to say, yeah, let's pass this down, right? The advisory services and things. So yeah, just again, it's almost like you're auditioning for them, right? Because they're taking a risk, right? But again, I mean, if they're impressed with you and things like that, you just might actually get a paid project out of this, even for a short duration or a longer term duration. So we're working at that. We're working that angle too, trust me. Okay. I'm working every angle I possibly can to negotiate that stuff for you guys. So that's basically it, at least for tonight. Any last question or is there anything that I overlooked in the question box?
So I don't have a question, but I made a doc with all the links under federal resume resources. So it's in the team lead chat, and so all the team leads are going to distribute it to the main discussion chat for each individual team. So you guys should all see that soon.
All right, excellent. No, that's great. So I do see a question that says, okay, is cybersecurity leadership and management from ISC the same course, the CGRC certification course you told us about in the last webinar? That's an excellent question, actually. I have to look in the cybersecurity leadership and management one, because I know the CAP, which is now the CGRC, that's the NIST one for sure. Okay, and that one everybody knows about. I'll have to look to see the curriculum and the questions that are asked with the cybersecurity leadership and management one from ISC. I'll have to look into that and get back with you on that one, because I'm actually not sure. I know the GCRC, which is formerly the CAP, is the shoe-in for the NIST knowledge. I'm going to have to look to see the nature of the questions and things, if in fact is NIST stuff. It may not be. It may be more like a junior CISA or something like that, right? Which is surrounding, of course, the leadership stuff. I don't know. So I'll have to look into that, all right? So I'll get back with you guys on that. That's an excellent question, actually. Cybersec leadership management. Yeah, I haven't even heard of that one, actually. Cybersec leadership and management one for ISC. See, a lot of them, right, are and this is why the next the next focus area, right, the tomorrow night, right, is going to be surrounding what really certifications you should get, okay, for each of your jobs. Because again, the whole thing is this, right, when you're looking at, just go into, say, I'm going to start it off and we'll follow it on tomorrow, because if you look, let's just say, let's go to jobs, okay, and I pull up, I don't know, let's just say TS clearance here, since we're looking at government stuff anyway. So some are defense contractor, others, okay. So since we're on this, we might as well just cover it. But okay, so I just wanted to, okay, so it's got, yeah, 1 to 3 years of experience in IT security or IT risk compliance. Strong knowledge of and understanding of NIST, 853, right? ISO 27, that's why I'm giving you guys, again, ISO, there's a method to the madness, you guys. ISO, CMMC, and 853. That's why I've got you guys doing the gap analysis, because that's going to help you guys out hugely, okay? Now, this says, it's got the 8510. Okay, now it's actually the other one that we pulled up. Okay, what is the number? I forget the number, 8410 or something like that, I forgot. Again, I'll provide that information to you as well. So this is bachelor's degree in information system security, cybersecurity related field. Now, here's a certification. It says such as Security Plus. You don't have to have all of these, just at least one, okay? Security Plus, that's a shoe-in for any DoD stuff because they're not going to give you admin rights without the Security Plus, even if you have a CISA. It's just the weirdest thing, but I'm telling you, that's straight up, that's what they do. So Security Plus, that's the first one you should actually get right out the gate. So if you guys aren't studying for Security Plus, you should go and get it, okay? And then, of course, CISA, CISP, so you can get the Associate CISP right now being entry level, okay? That will mature after 5 years to a full-on CISP. Okay, but these are management stuff like CISA systems, you know, CISA is for like auditor, stuff like that. And of course, CEH. CEH is for penetration tester. But what are you doing? You're doing an ISO. For an ISO, you don't need the CEH, the Security Plus, because you won't even get access to EMAS, okay, or anything like that, okay, without Security Plus, okay? So again, and I know this because I deal with these types of contracts all the time, you know, so it's Security Plus. So they're not even going to care about, because this isn't a penetration, this is an ISO. I mean, come on. A lot of times they copy and paste this from stuff, but I know the requirements, Security Plus, right? Don't worry about these, okay, for this one at all. Just get a Security Plus and you'll be good, okay? Experience with SCAP compliance checker and DISA STIGs, okay? That's what I'm saying. That's another reason why I'm showing you guys that stuff too, because again, I know what's required, you know? Now this one says TS/SCI clearance required, so you already should have a TS going into this. This isn't even one that you can, you know, so you have to already have a clearance walking in there that they can take ownership of and of course manage, okay, kind of thing, right? But again, that's that one. So again, I mean, is the one that you mentioned on there, like cyber leadership and management? No. Is the CGRC on there? No, right? But again, if you're going for this position, okay, then you need to make sure that you crosswalk because that's all people are doing, right? The backend computer system is set to do that too. Does it match what's in the job description? Okay. So if you have CCNA and all this other stuff, okay, no, you don't meet the requirements because this is what they're saying because it's on a contract. There's requirements, the reason why it's listed. Okay, sometimes you can't get around it. The okay, so here's technology assurance engineers. Look at this one. Okay, so we have let's look at this one. Let's see how this one's written. DHS SCI fitness. So requires the hire to have or obtain within 1 year. So this one you can actually put in for, right? Have or obtain. Says or obtain. That's a keyword that says okay, they'll sponsor it. But you know, this is hybrid, okay, all that kind of stuff, right? Let me look for like a junior one. Junior ISO, let's just say. Okay, see if anything comes up. Associate's another one too when you look at associate, like when you look at Deloitte, KPMG, associate is also junior. So look for that terminology as well. So this has got mid, okay, all right, that's fine. Senior, mid, that's like intermediate. That's okay.
Anna,
but that's
can you
okay. Let's look
repeat
at
that term again that you said? The term that we should look for junior? Oh, is that what you said?
Yes,
Okay.
associate. Yeah, associate. So here, let me type that in there.
I just didn't hear you. Thank you.
Another. No worries at all. No, thank you. Not a problem. So okay, we have, yeah. So this has got. Okay, let me exit out of that. Hold on. Poems, right? FIPS, 800 NIST, right? All this stuff. So again, if you have the CGRC, the CAP, I mean that shows that you know the NIST stuff, right? That helps. CSAM, that's a Department of Justice owned tool. Okay, we use for central repository, right, of system security plans and plans of actions and milestones and all these other things, right? So there's CSAM, EMAS, and Exacta you're going to encounter out there, right? It says, okay, able to obtain a DoD security clearance. EOD suitability or current, right, preferred, okay. At least 2 years of experience working with FISMA, right? So the FISMA Act, right? So that's a law, and then of course NIST and everything else falls under that, right? It's kind of stuff. NIST, IT security, okay. It says experience with Exacta, okay, or CSAM, okay. Ability to work independently and as part of a team. That's another reason I have you guys working as teams, right? So cloud network or architecture experience, Nutanix, AWS, Azure, Google, or whatever, right? So, so again, if you get an AWS, let's just say cloud practitioner, right? Some of you, and of course, Jump Cloud, you guys are gonna have access to Jump Cloud, right? So all that matters, okay, in the scheme of things. CISP certification, but you can get an associate CISP in this case. CAP, here it is. It says CAP right here, right? So obviously it's the CGRC, right, which replaced that. So they're looking for this. This is the requirement. MCSE, right? So MCSE, MCSA, or MCP, right? Previous DHS or DoD experience. So for those of you that have worked, let's just say veterans, things like that, or whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever, you guys are shooing, but don't dissuade this from this. This is preferred, required, or here. So, but again, remember, there's hundreds of people going for these same jobs. So the more that you can show that you meet, again, use these job descriptions as a checklist, right? To make sure if you don't have something, okay, then you know, then put it on your bucket, your goals and objectives to obtain it. You know, if you don't have a CISP, okay, note that you're going to have to then obtain an associate CISP. If you don't have a CAP, then you know you're going to need to go for the CGRC, right, kind of thing, right? Use this as a way in which you can put in your goals and objectives, different certifications, and of course, the allocation of the money you're going to be spending. Because if you're not careful, look at all the certifications. Some of them are free, some of them are not. Some of them are just not worth your money. Like, people are collecting certifications like they are baseball cards, like, right? It's like, why? Get what you need, especially with entry level. I have a ton of certifications, but I got that over time, a 30-year period. I didn't get those all in one fell swoop, okay? You tend to get, different certifications and things to marry up with the job that you're doing, the role that now you have, right? Those types of things. So, yeah, so use these. Okay, I'll give you guys this. This is here, let me actually, because that's gonna take there. I think it's up here. You share this. Use this as an example, okay? In which to marry up with, different requirements, right? That you have, or if you don't have it, like I said, put it on your goals and objectives list, right? And work towards it, okay? Because otherwise you're going to continue submitting resumes and you're going to be like wondering, why aren't you getting any feedback? Well, that's why you're submitting stuff that you're not even qualified for, because all they're doing is looking for, do you meet this requirement? Check, check, right? Check, check, check. If it's not on your resume and you can't represent it as such, then you don't meet the requirements. Don't even bother and go for other ones, right? You see what I'm getting at? But again, there's a reason why I've got you guys doing certain things, because you're going to be able to put those on your resume, right? So anyways, I hope that helps. I know it's a lot. Again, I'll even go more in depth on the certification stuff come Saturday. And again, that will be recorded. The trick, like I said, is just use these job descriptions as a checklist. I mean, that's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway from tonight, and I'll expound upon it tomorrow, okay? All right, am I missing anything? Any final questions? Or I'll take one more before we close out. I just don't want to, don't want to avoid a question. I'm trying to see if there's any more in the chat or in the question box. Any final questions? I know that's a lot, trust me. We have lots more of these. And if you do have an idea about a topic, or say, can we go back and revisit this, right, specifically, right, and just take it even further? Absolutely. Just let me know, let your team know, let the moderators know, let me know, etc. And then therefore we can, do a webinar around a certain focused area that you're interested in. Okay. Is that fair? Because I definitely want to accomplish this and make sure you guys are informed, and you guys, can make sure that you are, gaining your knowledge, skills, and abilities, and of course the certifications required for the job, so you can actually get the job, meet the requirements, again, because that's all they're looking for. That's all any of us are looking for, right? Honestly, if you don't meet this, and maybe you do, but you don't have it all on your resume, then you're like, well, I meet that requirement, so I don't know why I'm not getting in front of the hiring manager. Well, did you put it on your resume? Right? May not even be in your resume. So use it as a checklist, right? Kind of thing. Because that's all we see is the resume. We can't do anything beyond that, Help us out here, right? Is all we ask. And don't put objective seeking cybersecurity analyst or whatever. No, say seeking information system security officer with Khaki International, boom, 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 right? Washington, D.C., because there's tons of them everywhere. So the more you can help us so that, when that resume gets printed off or even digitized and put in buckets, at least you get in the right bucket, right? First, okay? Because look at these different titles and things a lot. And again, only look to not so much the title really, but what you're going to be doing for that job. There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of overlap, okay? So look, there's a lot of overlap. Everything you'd be doing here actually is a lot of this stuff. We do a lot of stuff actually in here that you can actually check mark off is hands-on knowledge of, if you will, familiarity with, etc. So Yeah, we have a ways to go, and nowhere. And you can always come back through too. We're gonna again connect you with, and just make sure that you're also applying for what you're a fit for. Because again, if you come from a law enforcement background, obviously the FBI or some others are a shoe-in for that, because you already know the culture. It's the business culture. It's the way they talk, the way they engage, the type of applications they run. If you're from retail, don't discount that either. Again, retail folks, they have cyber things too. There's point of sale systems and PII and finance systems that have to be. The bank, if you come from a teller or whatever, bank, if you're a mechanic or whatever, you can work for NTB, right? There's anything with an IP address can be hacked, okay? So voice and data, right? VoIP, all of our VoIP stuff, that's IP stuff. So again, don't discount the current employer that you're working for. Shoot, even if it's Denny's for that matter. Denny's has cyber IT support, and they actually pay rather well. So does McDonald's, so does Walmart, right? So again, look internally first sometimes, because if you're already doing well in that current role, then they're willing to take a risk then, because like, yeah, they've already been here, they're loyal, right? And they're just looking at like an adult upskilling type of a situation, or a reskilling, kind of thing. And we'd be more than happy to keep them on. So let's have them apply for the position, et cetera, and get them in here. They've already been at Walmart, let's just say for 5 years already. We'd love to retain them and support their ability for career growth and progression, not a problem. That happens all the time. So look there first, especially when you have a good shoe-in with that current employer. Don't discount that. Just move into a cyber role. You see what I'm saying? So, all right, I apologize, you guys. Everybody good? Anything before we close out? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no. Please post those links and things in the discussion board. And then,
Have a good night, folks.
Yeah, you too. All right, I'll provide this recording when it's done, okay? When it's ready.
Have a good night.
Good night, yeah.
Have a good one.
Good night.